All right, everybody ready for some of the day's top stories and headlines? I just asked Mike at the end of Fox 10 Extra if you had to think of 2 words that President Donald Trump says in every rally he ever holds. And last night he was in Pennsylvania. We streamed the whole thing here on News Now. If you happen to miss it, go to our main YouTube page. It's right there. You can watch the whole thing. It's about 1 hour 20 minutes, I believe. Fake news would probably be those words, right? Well, Doug Luzader is here to talk about the president's attacks to the media.
Heard these kinds of attacks before, but they may get more frequent now as we get deeper and deeper into campaign season. President Trump in Pennsylvania last night campaigning for a Republican Senate candidate, but against the news media in what has been a recurring theme.
And the fake news refused to call it, right? But they can make anything bad because they are the fake, disgusting news.
Earlier at the White House daily briefing, Press Secretary Sarah Sanders was repeatedly pressed by CNN reporter Jim Acosta.
You did not say that the press is not the enemy of the people.
The media has attacked me personally on a number of occasions, including your own network, said I should be harassed as a life sentence, that I should be choked. ICE officials are not welcomed in their place of worship, and personal information is shared on the internet. When I was hosted by the Correspondents Association, of which almost all of you are members of, you brought a comedian up to attack my appearance and call me a traitor to my own gender.
But the president's daughter, Ivanka, took a measured approach when she was asked.
I have some sensitivity around why people have concerns and gripe, especially when they're sort of feel targeted. But no, I do not feel that the media is the enemy of the people.
That prompted this response on Twitter from the president. They asked my daughter Ivanka whether or not the media is the enemy of the people. She correctly said no. It is the fake news, which is a large percentage of the media, that is the enemy of the people. We talk about the president playing to his political base with these attacks on the media. There's a new poll out from Quinnipiac that kind of bears this out. The question was, is the press the enemy of the people? Just 21% of voters agree with that question. But when you separate out Republican voters, that number goes up to 45%. In Washington, Doug Luzader, Fox News.
All right, Doug, thanks so much for that update there. I'm going to get you all to some happy news, some lighter news before we get going with a couple more of the day's top stories and headlines. And then we're going to be going out to Lynchburg, Virginia, where they're holding a news conference about that flooding. So again, this requires some special graphics. So let me work on it before I actually start playing this. All right, everybody ready?
Yeah, it's pretty good. 11-year-old Mason Ramsey is an internet sensation for his adorable yodeling skills. A video of him singing Lovesick Blues at an Illinois Walmart is racking up views at 55 million and counting. Mason's newfound fame has its perks.
Now I can go to big cities and go to LA and New York and a lot of fun places that I want to go.
In a few short months, Mason has played numerous festivals. The Grand Ole Opry is set to open for Florida Georgia Line at their Vegas residency, and just released his debut EP with the lead track, Famous.
Famous is about a person who sings about love, but when I think about the song, I think about my family.
Mason says he always wanted to sing country music.
When I was 3, I went down to the garage because Grandpa would always be playing Hank Williams Sr.'s music, and I learned how to talk, and when I learned how to talk, I learned how to sing.
He has a wish list duet partner.
Probably Blake Shelton.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And for all his shows coming up, he's perfecting his signature dance moves.
Turn around, spin, finger point.
In New York, Ashley Dvorkin, Fox News.
Wow, that was a little bit different than I thought it was going to be. I hadn't watched the video, and when you heard like yodeling, you kind of expected like the yodel-lee-hoo sort of stuff. Anyway, Friday, a little bit of a lighter story, right? And I also realized we haven't had a whole lot of animal videos this week, so I'll see what I can do to try to change that. All right, everybody, on a much more serious note, so entirely switching gears. Most of us heard about Demi Lovato's overdose and learned that she was revived by Narcan. So this next story is about making it more available to people who may need it.
Police and first responders have begun to add it to their utility belts, and now thanks to a state grant, San Joaquin County Public Health is trying to ensure the drug commonly known as Narcan is in as many hands as possible.
It is just as important to have Narcan if you are at risk of opioid overdose as it is for someone with an allergy having an EpiPen or someone with asthma having their rescue inhaler. This is a life-saving drug, and if you use, you should have Narcan.
Lily Pad Living, a recovery and transitional living home for women and children in Stockton that opened in March and now has 16 people in the residence, plans to get several of the 909 doses of Narcan the county is offering.
While they are in recovery, we know that there may be situations where they do have a lapse. We know that we may have future incoming residents who may have a lapse as well, and so we want to be able to prevent deaths. We want to be able to prevent such a tragedy, and being able to have that Narcan on site readily available will enable us to do that.
The county had 57 overdoses last year and hope to distribute some of the remaining 500 doses from their stock to families and individuals who are at risk of opioid overdoses.
It's not necessarily the marginalized population where we would like to think that it's maybe the homeless or the poor or gangs or whatever, but actually opioids affect all of us. There's probably people in your office or in my office that have been prescribed opioid medication after a surgery and have become addicted.
Public Health says people have been thankful that they can get their hands on the nasal spray and believe the discussion about opioid abuse is gaining traction. Attraction places like Lily Pad Living say will help in recovery.
We know that Narcan is just one small step in putting a dent in the opioid crisis. Another big part of that is recovery residences. And so, using those in conjunction and really being able to work and promote those things with the county and city agencies is going to be crucial for us, and we're absolutely on board and excited to do so.
All right. Every step makes a difference there in fighting the opioid epidemic. Well, this next story is about drug dealers being back on the street after an analysis backlog.
Grind it, dissolve it, mix it up.
Carly McManaman has been analyzing drugs at the Georgia Bureau of Investigation for 6 years. But in recent months, she's noticed her time in the lab becoming longer and busier, with a mounting workload literally piling up behind her. Thousands of drug cases hang in the balance at GBI, a backlog jumping from 300 requests to 17,000 in 5 years.
If we were to stop receiving drug cases today, it would take us 8 months to eliminate the backlog.
But problems from the backlog extend beyond an escalating workload for employees at GBI. District attorneys across the state say delays in analysis allow drug dealers and abusers to return to the streets.
Police!
Right now, drug analysis in Georgia typically takes 7 to 9 months.
So we're not able to get these folks indicted before they have a right to a bond. So these guys get arrested. We're waiting on the drug test to come back. If they get a bond, they go back out. They're at the same street corner selling drugs again.
Georgia's not alone. Drug cases are overwhelming crime labs across the country, including agencies in Mississippi, Arkansas, and Ohio, each responding with different solutions.
Live in Ohio. Even you're from
Ohio Senator Sherrod Brown pushing to get high-tech screening devices used by customs agents into the hands of local police.
The technology is such now that these devices will be able to detect pretty much immediately a number of different substances.
For Georgia, GBI Director Keenan says more complex cases call for more scientists.
Many of these drug cases are more complicated to work than they have been before.
That's because of an increase in synthetic drugs. Crime lab technicians like McManaman are having to keep up with a black market science that is constantly evolving. In Atlanta, Emily Ikeda, Fox News.
All right, well, it's often that we call first responders heroes, right? Well, this next story is about an officer who shielded a child from gunfire.
Yes! Chester police officer Jose Alvarez loves being a part of the lives of children, but Monday night he actually saved some of those young lives.
I basically have at least a vest that I can be able to, put the bullet between the family and myself and cover and dump.
At 7th and Tillman, while meeting with the parent, gunfire erupted.
Mid-sentence, talking to them about the curfew, shots fired, rang out. 2 shots fired, rang, boom, boom.
He says the shots came from behind him, with the mother and her 3 children between 9 and 12 years old in front of him. His body became their only line of defense.
I threw the juvenile on the floor so she can take cover, and at that point, once I was trying to get them back into their home, I looked back and another 5 shots, which I could easily see the muzzle. 5 shots, pum, 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 pum.
He ran after the suspected shooter once the gunfire stopped, but lost track of him.
After my shift that day, in my car, I had to just take a second and I just thank God that he was able to provide some cover for not only myself, but anybody that was in the area.
The father of 5 kids with a grandchild on the way later this year, Officer Alvarez says he does not feel like a hero, just a guy doing what he does best, protecting those around him.
I thank God I have a supporting family and friends that know what I'm here for and know what I do. If it wasn't for my wife and my kids, I wouldn't, be able to come home, because that's what actually makes me want to come home every day.